was saying, yeah, sorry, my connection skipped there for a second. So I was saying that the dark side is a mob, right? But the light side is family, is community, is belonging. So like they're two sides of one coin. And like community living is like hardwired into us, like what you were saying, like
we're communal animals.
We're communal animals, and it's like it's like how gang culture thrives, right? It's like because it's hardwired into us to have like community, to have family and belonging. If a person doesn't get that at home, they'll like go out and they'll find a gang and they will provide them they will fulfill that need. So it's a human need basically. It's like, like on Maslow's hierarchy and whatnot.
To belong and to know like you're a part of a community that thinks like you.
And I just want to add, and I can't believe I'm going to quote this guy, but I've been listening to him so much lately. Jordan Peterson, like, oh my God. No, like on the way here, like I was listening to one of his like talks, and he was talking about how like this guy did an experiment, like a study on rats, basically, right? On how like touch is such an important thing. On like little mice, if you take them like their mom and you don't give them touch, like physical touch, they die. But if you give them that physical touch for like
die, fam. They don't just develop mental health issues. They die.
No, yeah. And what he was basically that connection is that deep. Like physical touch and wanting to connect and belong to a community is really important. It's like fundamental to all like living beings, because without it, then we feel like, we're outed. And it reminds me of this experiment. I don't know if you guys have seen like these social media things where like it'll be two parents playing with like a small kid, and they like playing like a hide and seek game, and then they're like the person is not there. Like, let me give an example of like Hopulang, and we'll say like Hopulang is not here anymore. Hopulang, where's Hopulang? And Hopulang is like, yeah, I'm here, and they're like, we can't.
Guys.
And the kid is just crying like, but I'm here. Can you?
That is so deep, and that's not cool, man. That ain't a prank, bro. You might traumatize a child for life, bro.
Yeah, and
it's evil. It's evil. They really weep, like they weep from their soul, like
like, but I'm here.
It's like existential
exactly.
terror.
You not recognize that I'm here. I'm a part of your community.
Exactly.
And I think maybe that's how mob psychology gets entrenched. Is once evil actors can convince you, Jorge, the rest of the world is against us. Whatever the reason is. Let's say you are radical Christians, or you are, I don't know, friggin' white supremacists, right? I think that's what happens is once you become part of a toxic group like that, and they convince you, oh, it's us against the world, right? I think that's why they stick around so long, is that sense of belonging, that sense of being recognized within a community kicks in so much that even if it's toxic, you are so afraid of being outside of that group protection that you are willing to imbibe and keep eating the poison, or keep swallowing the poison that your group is feeding you, and even going out to feed that poison to other people, starting with your children, your family, So then the question becomes, like, well, what do we think gives rise to these toxic type of groups? What gives rise to the toxic mobs?
Yeah.
Why is it that everybody isn't born into a community where positive ideas and philosophies are what we're preaching, and therefore being a part of that community means you're a positive person with positive philosophies?
Like, I want to say that for a lot of us, it's because we grow up in like negative spaces, like it's easy to learn. Like one of the, like with kids, I've seen that one of the first few things that they learn as part of their language is like Kapa, basically like futek, or like whatever, and depending on the community that these kids are like are growing up in, So I feel like the environment plays a huge role, and if all you know is that kind of like negativity and just not, having any positive like influences, then that's all you create. That's what you think like you think that's what the world is, you know, you think everybody behaves in that way, therefore, you know, this is how I'm going to approach everyone, you know? So, yeah, and I think it's really dangerous. So, yeah.
Like, I hear what you're saying, but I feel like you haven't answered the question: is what gives rise to those negative communities? Where does it start? Because I don't think anybody wakes up thinking, okay, I'm just gonna be a mean person and I'm gonna be swearing at everyone, and you know, I'm just gonna be rude to everyone. Where does it begin? How does it get normalized?
It depends on how deep into the rabbit hole you want to go. Like for me, ultimately, I feel like, you know, the world is like, there's like status quo, there's inertia in the world, right? So like things are gonna be how
they have been,
how they have been, and how they've been built. So like you have like, I feel like you have like a billionaire class,
yeah,
and like the way that they came to that kind of wealth, right, is by the old school industrial like schooling system, where like you need to go to the factory, get a job, work X amount of days a week, make so much pay. In school, they educate you for those jobs, for those like industrial jobs. So they teach you so you know just enough to fulfill that job, but not enough to get creative with how you want to live your life or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And so obviously the kind of freedoms you have, the kind of like freedom to think, freedom to move that you have under that kind of a system creates like strife. Like it just keeps you in a box. It keeps you like upset. People deal with like depression over these like economic stress of being like kept in those conditions, and it's like on purpose.
Marginalized is the right word.
Marginalized, yeah. It's like built into the system. It's like it's supposed to be that way.
It's what we're saying,
what I mean?
With the pyramid, right? There's lots of people at the bottom who are marginalized, and the higher up you go, the less and less people there are. And then that creates the drive in everyone to climb up the ladder, regardless of who you have to screw over and step on to get. So that's the issue then. Is that for the longest time as human beings, and it makes sense when we look at it just from evolution, right? When we look at it just from an evolutionary perspective, right? We've lived in a non-human friendly environment for the longest time. I think for the longest time, for a lot of our ancestors, it genuinely felt like nature was against us. It felt like nature is trying to kill us, you know, for the most part. And it was like adapt or die, right? So I think maybe that, and also depending on where you came from, because if you come from, like we've spoken about in past episodes, if you come from a land of scarcity, right, your adapt or die also includes like for everybody else it's adapt or die, but for you it's adapt or die and kill if you have to, right? Because your environment or your conditions are that extreme where you have to be comfortable with killing or totally strangling everybody else out for you to survive, because your survival is that precarious.